Alright, today we're going to do a lesson about writing decimal numbers as fractions. It's lesson 35, and we're also going to be reading and writing decimal numbers. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start that lesson. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about this fraction. Wait, that's not a fraction, that's a decimal. Actually, decimal numbers are fractions, they're just written in a different form. The numerator is the number written. So if I were to write this fraction form, the numerator is the number that's written in decimal form. So you just put a 5. The denominator, it could either be 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, so on and so forth. But which one of these goes as the denominator? Well, that is indicated by the place value. So you got to know place value. That's why I think it was last lesson or the lesson before, we were talking about place value. I think yesterday. So 5 is in the tenths spot. Okay? So whatever place in relation to the decimal the number is, that is what indicates the denominator. So since this is in the tenths spot, which one of these numbers do you think goes in the denominator? Clearly 10. Alright? And then you can reduce that to 1/2. Everyone knows that 0.5 is 1/2. You guys should memorize a lot of these decimal numbers. So let's do a couple different problems. Alright, so I just got back from helping with the fun run. I'm all kind of sweaty a little bit, but let's finish this lesson. So here's another fraction, which I mean is decimal. Decimal is a form of fraction. And for this one, we know that the number is 5, so that's going to go in the numerator spot. And what determines what goes in the denominator spot? Well, what determines that is how many spaces over we are. So since we are 2 spaces over, that's the hundredths, or tenths, then the hundredths. So since the 5 is in the hundredths spot, 100 goes on the bottom. And you can also reduce this fraction. So you got, if you divide top and bottom by 5, which is our greatest common factor of those two, 5 divided by 5 is 1, 100 divided by 5 is 20. So 0.05 or 5 1/100ths is the same as 1/20th. Alright, let's go ahead and do one more problem. 0.005. What does that equal as a fraction? First, let's read it as a decimal. We say 5. You say the word 5. 5. Okay? The reason why I say that is because there's 5 there. Alright, and then you say what place it's in. The place value is determined by where the number is in relation to the decimal. Okay? So it's in the, count over from the decimal, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So this is 5,000. THS. Okay? So keep that in mind. Alright, let's go ahead and change it to a fraction. Since there's a 5 right there, the 5 is going to go in the numerator, and the place value, the number that goes on the bottom here, is determined by place value. So we're in tenths, hundredths, thousandths, so you're going to put 1,000 there. Not tenths or hundredths, but you're going to use the thousandths. Then this reduces, divide top and bottom by 5, greatest common factor. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 1,000 divided by 5 is 200. Okay, so let's go ahead and I want to draw your attention back to this fraction right here, 5 over 1,000. Just look at that. Let's read this out loud. 5 thousandths. Hey, you write it out, you spell it out the exact same way you spell out the decimal form of this. This is 5 thousandths and this is 5 thousandths. It's just this is the decimal form and that's the fraction form. Okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and now we're going to do some problems on reading and writing decimal numbers. If you see 2.54 centimeters, how many centimeters is that? Well, obviously, we're going to write this out in word form. Obviously, you can write the word 2, because there's 2 centimeters. But 0.54, what does that look like, or what does that sound like if you say it mathematically? Well, first off, there's 54 right there. So you can just go right 2 and write 54. Straightforward. That's pretty easy. 54. Now the next part is determined by the place value. Okay? So since the 5 and the 4, since it's 54, you go to the furthermost place. The place that's furthest to the right. So the 4 is in the, not the 10th place, but the 100th place. So this is 2 and 54, and you just write your place value. Hundredths. Okay? Let's do a different one. Let's do, we'll say that's number 1 for this. Number 2, let's do 3.07. This would be, go ahead and write it down really quick. You can pause the video. This one is going to be 3, and then you just write the number, and 7. Now this is this is the part that changes. It's easy to write the word 3 and the word 7. 3 and 7, look at the place value. The place value determines what comes next. It's not in the 10th place. This is also in the 100th place. So you write hundredths. So this word right here comes from the fact that the 7 is in the hundredths spot. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. I will see you guys next time.